and the B site was identified by drillings from Nedeco. The result was that a canal, a collector drain, was constructed around Mohen. Here you see it before they introduced the concrete for the stabilization of the site, and that's what I wanted to show my colleagues from the geology. You see the white patches, these lenses of sand in clay and so on, even under the surface, and you see that parts are cut. It's full of Harappan bricks. So a part of the construction of the channel also removed a part of the original structures. Now this is the canal, everybody knows it, on the left, running. On the right side you see the collector drain with all the pumps which were sunk 200 feet, 60 meters below the surface, and on the right side you see the problem, all new bricks, how the walls look like once they are not treated properly. Now, we have another point, and that is the spurs, where WAPDA and the Indus River Commission built these spurs, and where the red point is, in 2008, I think, they discovered, we are away almost 1 kilometer from the site. They discovered this. We are about 2.5 meters below surface, and we have streets, walls, and wells. That means this was the final moment where we said, hello, something must be wrong in this city, and understanding is in a way not yet complete. We had already some more information. Here you see we are at the edge of one of the spurs, and look at the river bank, and you see that sometimes even bricks are coming out. People are reporting from the villages when they dug a well that they say we have bricks. This was our big question when finally we came to the project, which thanks to the government was initiated based on requests from UNESCO. Now this is our map of Mohenjo-Daro, and you see the collector drain, you see the streets. I do not go into the details, but you see the high density of the architecture, which normally is only typical for cities either who have a wall around or they have limited space. And in the understanding we have, the space was limited by platforms on which this city was built due to the annual inundation danger by the Indus. Finally, we come to capacity building. This was the last workshop by UNESCO, 2005. We had, as already mentioned yesterday, from 1993 to 1997, 3 years, a very big project of capacity building. We trained 20 people, and those 20 people trained with Richard News, very good experts. Nobody was employed by the Department of Archaeology. I want to say, and we discussed that in the workshops, we also have to understand intrinsic problems. It's not only science and technology, sometimes it's also a question of management. Now, the oldest maps from the 20th come from aerial photographs. The map which you see in the book of Marshall, we call it Francis map, obviously was based on a very precise aerial photogrammetric survey. And you see the site. For us it's interesting nowadays, for the geobotanists, you see the marks of the geobotany, and you see on the right side the maps we are working with today, which is a QuickBird satellite image. I think I have to hurry up. Now, on the right side you see now, this map which we have was based on another set of aerial photographs made by the Royal Air Force. 1965, the Nedeco map. This is a negative. And you see the citadel with all the structures. You see the place where we are. The trees are white and the ground is black. But look at the patterns of the river Indus, the ancient flow patterns, which still can be seen very clearly. So this map is based again on satellite, and that's interesting for Lashari side because we discussed in TCC a new mapping of Mohenjo-Daro and what is the old slopes. You see along the excavations, these long lines are all the spill areas of the excavators which were removed in the late 70s. Our final source was, of course, low altitude photography with a hot air balloon, which was very important for the surface survey with Massimo, Mark, where we go for gun, for beads, whatever it is. You could have any height for the differentiated approach of the surface analysis. And here you see the map. How sensitive this archaeological surface still is. This was, of course, Maurizio Tosi, where we have in the different areas, you see the bead making, shell making, seal making. We have the drills. Everything is on the surface. And therefore, we again strongly advise nobody should walk. And in former days, it was the camels and the goats and whatever it is. This is a very precious archaeological source. Finally, water and settlements. Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus. We have here, this is Lake Manchar. The people since immemorial times are used to cope with the water. And we had, this is a satellite image of 2010, when I was here with UNESCO for the emergency evaluation. And you see on the top, this is before the floods, and on the lower part, during the floods. And Mohenjo-Daro, I remember the bund, it was just 50 centimeters, and then the water would have been over it, but it withstood. Want to say, this area, and look at the position of Mohenjo-Daro, always was in the area of the active alluvial Indus. And the reports of the 19th say, in summer it was an uncovered, a permanent sheet of water covering almost 20, 30 kilometers every year. So, Wheeler, 1950, he did a deep digging here where this little mark is. And this was, it's published in 1968 in his report. This is the original map. This is not published, but a copy of it. We have this map too with us in Aachen. And you see on the right side this enormous retaining wall, which goes 7 meters deep. And this, up to today, is one of the primary sources also for the activities about which then also Professor Solangi will be talking. So we have continuation underground. Ute Franke did stripping and drilling with Pirkhauer all around the citadel, and we could prove this. These are the sketches of it with the horizontal planar and all these Pirkhauer drillings. So it is given that the citadel is on a huge, big platform. But we have other sources, and this is in an old site and the new site. These are the two places where Nedeco did the drilling. We have the profiles, the litholytic bars of 1965. That was also the time when George Dales was there. And these we still can include, but we do not have the heights above sea level of the top. George Dales and Mark, the excavation in the Dales area, and you see on the right side also George had a deep digging along a street in the lower plain of the what we call nowadays the Dales area. So we have plenty of information on the underground structures. Here we have another drilling machine of Kukarzi, Ballista 1987, where they did very selective research. And the final sources we have, these are the drilling profiles of Wapda with all the profiles of the wells around Mohenjo-Daro. So we have 3 to 4 times secured the underground structures, and what we needed was the extent of the site, and this is what we hear about later. Let me rush through. This is something where you see, this is the west on the left side, and you see a kind of declining down, but Professor Solangi will comment on that. I don't do that now. This is the hypothetical reconstruction because we have deposits down to almost 15, 20 meters below the surface. We are on 47 meters above MSL, down to 30 meters. This cannot be the ground. And what we are discussing is there must be primary deposits, secondary deposits, and what we said, the third one is stray, because the Indus also washes away. But this we will be commenting on later. But this is a possibility. You construct a platform, you dig holes, and in the holes the pottery falls and the rubbish, so it can happen that on a rather low level you have these remains. Now this is the sum of all drillings which have been done. It looks a little bit chaotic, but of course the first approaches you will see by Professor Solangi show clear pictures. This is very carefully to be seen, but approximately it could be the extent which seems to be primarily to the east of the city, not to the west, and first estimations would say at least double the size of what you see today. Why? Again, and there were some very good comments, Mohenjo-Daro to the river. We call it now the revolution of transport. We saw the revolution, the urban revolution by Child, 1950, in the Liverpool Journal. This is the reason why it may be that all civilizations, Indus Valley, Mesopotamia, and Egypt, developed in a rather short time along the Indus, the river systems, because they did not have the horse, they did not have the camel, and with the bullock cart, when Mohenjo-Daro is underwater, you cannot go by bullock 600 kilometers to be in Harappa. Impossible. So water and intensification of water, we have the seal, which everybody knows, and this could be the change from the bullock to the boat, and this might be a reason why Mohenjo-Daro was there. This is a simulation we did once for a film. You see the citadel on the west, and it could be feasible that indeed it was a kind of semi-amphibious structure, and now we would be interested, of course, in other sites like Shanyu-Daro, whatever it is, what is happening there. What is happening if we accept that as a new approach of understanding? Finally, we did some 2 years ago, together with Yasmin Lari, a Sindh data bank collection, where we have the registration of more than 1,000 sites on the central data bank. Our dream, of course, is not only to deal with Mohenjo-Daro, but see Sindh as an enormous potential of cultural tradition. And this is our wish and our idea. The German Research Center Mohenjo-Daro is now in Oman, and we would very much support a kind of society for the promotion of Mohenjo-Daro and the Sindh heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Michael Jensen. It was a very thought-provoking talk, and I'm still lost into that. Now there's a slight change in the program. Professor Dr. Sarfraz Solangi would like to speak first, and then we'll ask Dr. Joseph. So, Professor Solangi, please.
Bismillahir Rahman Rahim. First of all, acknowledgement of efforts and thanks to the organizers, Government of Sindh, and in particular the convener, Professor Dr. Kalimullah Lashari Saab, for arranging this very important research mode session on Mohenjo-Daro and Indus Valley civilization. Well, I have been sandwiched between two giants, Professor Jansen and Professor Joe. Professor Jansen has a lifelong experience of working in Mohenjo-Daro, and Professor Joe has very long experience in Harappa. Well, I'm new to this field and especially engaged in one specific project which was initiated by Government of Sindh, that was called dry core drilling project for the Mohenjo-Daro. It was somewhere in 2014 that I was invited for talks with the TCC, and they expressed their interest to have drillings, core drillings in Mohenjo-daro. Tenders were floated, and ultimately we were given the task to see through that technologically it is possible to get cores in the subsurface of Mohenjo-daro. My team members, their names are there. They were with me right from the beginning, and we worked continuously with certain breaks from 1914, and the work still goes on because final report is yet to be produced. While talking in general about dry core drilling, it involved subsurface sampling at various locations around the main excavated area of Mohenjo-daro. What were the objectives? Certainly, the number one objective was to actually know the real extent of Mohenjo-daro city that was 5,000 years ago. It is said that thousands of people, some people put it 60,000, 70,000, or even more than 100,000 people used to live at that time. Now, looking at that, if such a number was living, the excavated area is too small. And many experts think that Mohenjo-daro at that time must have been a lot bigger than what we can see today. So keeping this in view, there was a recommendation from UNESCO as well that since this is the most important the most important settlement, particularly the urban settlement in the history of mankind, so better more work may be carried out to know whether this particular remains they extend beyond the excavated area and through this dry core drilling. So this was the main objective. In addition, when this large data set was expected to be collected, then the other objective was to see what the Indus River dynamics were since the Mohenjo-daro city, and that answer may lie within the subsurface layers, in particular the fluvial deposits which are found in cores. The second objective, this particular photograph refers to that this is just a satellite image where we can see various meanderings of Indus River from the Mohenjo-daro site. These can be called as more recent or most recent uh, Indus River channel shifting, but this is to depict that Indus River course that must have been very dynamic, as we saw in one of the satellite image, that it has been moving from west to east and then east to west. So this particular dynamics of Indus River that must have larger influence not only on Mohenjo-daro but other settlements of those times are previous than Mohenjo-daro or settlements which were after Mohenjo-daro. Taking core samples, it's relatively a complicated job when we compare it with normal drilling. The challenge was looking at the area that this area in subsurface is saturated with water. Most of the sediments, they are soft, either clays, silts or sands. It was not possible to apply routine coring technique to get core successfully up to the depth of 20 meter. Therefore, special that technology exists in the world and it's being used elsewhere. But for we people, this was first experience in terms of technology as well as expertise. Why? Because we required to have sample, coring sample in a PVC pipe, which preferably should be a transparent one, so that as the sample comes up, we can see what is in that core, and then we can decide further to carry on drilling or stop there. So this triple tube core barrel assembly is in this particular slide, where we can see on left side it is a PVC pipe which is transparent, then we have metallic pipe, then another metallic pipe. So with this in mind, we started looking for the right technology or the contractor who can carry out this job. This particular project was inaugurated in April 2014 by Chairman Pakistan People's Party, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. And he came over here in Mohenjo-daro, and at that time also I was there, and I had the honor to give briefing to Bilawal Bhutto Zardari about the project objectives and what will be the procedure to acquire cores successfully. This was the plan of getting samples at various locations. As you can see, it's a satellite image with yellow circles. These yellow circles, they were suggestions for core positions, locations to drill. They are at 100-meter interval, and at certain locations it can be 50-meter. And one thing to note here, that this particular drilling was carried out outside the drain from the major excavated area with the purpose to find out other remains of the Mohenjo-daro. That was the plan. This is the actual location map where we ultimately drilled at 55 locations instead of plan 40 location. This may not be exactly as per the plan, because while we drilled various locations, due to various technical reasons, either we stopped, either we changed or modified these locations. But this is in general that round the periphery we have drilled in all the directions at various locations. This was the machine which was used for drilling with the capability of diamond bit as well, and it used this triple core barrel successfully, but that was not straightforward, and we had to continue with the experiments for at least 1 year to get actually to the right technology and continue successfully for remaining cores. Drilling started in October 2015, and that was completed in March. It took about 6 months in continuous operations. These are just a few more glimpses of field operation during the coring. Each core was obtained in 1 meter length. It was labeled properly and then stored in these aluminum boxes for safe for future analysis and retrieving at any time. This is just another photograph after we collected the core and sealed it and labeled it and put in box. This core sample, to mention here, that it is about 8 centimeter in diameter, as you can see, and when core collection exercise was completed, in order to examine the core, it was cut in 2 pieces or sliced in longitudinal direction. You can see on left side the core after it was cut and ready for the examination. What we did, we examined one half of this core and then left other half for future examination by archaeologists or any other scientific discipline for analysis of these cores related to various aspects. This is a photo during the examination, and once the core was cut, immediately when it was fresh, having moisture, it was photographed and again labeled and then examined then and there with a team of various geologists and some other experts from other departments. Uh, it was on a centimeter scale. It was looked at in detail to find out basically to know that these are the cultural layers, these are natural layers, and if there are any natural layers, then we had to go in detail and find out the traces of fluvial or river deposits which was carried out core by core, and in total we collected about 710 meters, 710 core samples which were examined. Well, during the study or examination period, there was visit of Professor Johnson, and he visited our core laboratory where he saw the way the work was going on, and we held detailed discussions, uh, and he also gave valuable guidance at that time, because right from beginning, from TCC meetings to this drilling exercise,